Welcome to Mural Backstage Pass. My name is Haley Temple. I am a learning experience lead at Mural, and Backstage Pass is all about giving you a behind the scenes look at a real working session so that you can pick up some tips and tricks along the way, and you can start bringing Mural into your own work. So during this session, we are going to be, of course, getting work done, but also making sure we take opportunities to stop and answer your questions and highlight some Mural features and make sure that you are building some confidence in your work too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and make sure that we can introduce our topic for today. And this is actually a two-part session. So if you were here last week, we're continuing the conversation that we had around engaging meetings and bringing engagement into our meetings. And so I'm going to pass it over to Trisha to share a little bit about what we're covering today.
Sure.
Actually, before I do, I also want to say we always invite people to participate in Mural Backstage Pass and be part of our working session. So as Trisha is reviewing, if you are interested in participating, that means being on audio, on video, just type in all caps yes in the chat and let us know enthusiastically that you'd like to participate, and we'll invite about 5 people down to work with us. And if you're not chosen, no sweat. We're still going to let you come into the mural. You can view and watch with us.
Perfect.
All right.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Trisha. Haley, do you want to put it so that you can follow me? So as I move around.
Yes, I'll follow you.
Perfect. I'll just do a quick recap. So for those of you that were with us last week we were looking at we were talking about engagement and, why is it so difficult to create engagement in virtual meetings? So what we did last week is we explored a bit about what does great engagement look like using our empathy map. Then we went into the challenges that we face in creating that type of creating this type of engagement in a virtual space. And we identified about 4 or 5 sort of top challenges here, and we voted on the one that we wanted to explore more of, which was the fact that in this virtual space we lose some of the serendipity and spontaneous interaction that can happen when we are all in the same room together. So that's what we're going to be exploring more of today. And what we're going to do today, so when everybody gets into the mural, we'll start with a quick little warm-up. But then we're going to go in, we've staged a few sort of how might we questions using that problem statement about serendipity and spontaneous interaction. So we're going to vote on the top sort of how might we statement, refine and hone in on that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into an exercise where we do a reverse brainstorm, where we think about if we wanted to create the worst possible environment where there was no spontaneity and no serendipity kind of interaction, what would we do? So we'll brainstorm and kind of get into that kind of space a little bit. And then we'll move into solution sketching, where we'll say, okay, well, now that we've thought about all the things we don't want to happen, what are some options for how we could create the kind of environment that encourages spontaneity and serendipity in our virtual working? So we'll do some solution sketching, and then we'll refine our features to kind of on our top ideas as we go through. So that's our plan for today.
Awesome. Thank you for the overview. And again, if you want to come in and participate with us and know, maybe some experience in Mural is helpful, but we are also happy to have people who are new to Mural come in and join us. So if you're interested, again, type in all caps yes, and I'll be happy to let you join us as a panelist. And I see Lewis just asked. Awesome. We have 3 more spots. Anyone else want to give it a try?
Yeah, come and join us. It's going to be fun.
I have Linda. Linda, you're on with us. Lewis is with us. Hey, Linda.
Hey. Hi, Linda.
All right. And Shauna.
Great.
Yay. See, you guys are being spontaneous right now. That's awesome. Jumping in to join us.
Jumping in and learning by doing if we haven't played with this before.
Yes. All right. So What I'm going to do, Linda and Lewis and Shauna, you guys are all our panelists for today. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to invite you into the mural, and I'll ask you to sign in rather than doing an anonymous or visitor link.
Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. And then for the audience, if you would like to join and just view as we're working, then go ahead and I'll share the visitor link in the chat. Shauna, no worries. We'll make it work. Okay.
No problem. Great.
All right. So I'm going to invite Linda and Lewis and Shauna. I'm going to ask you guys to follow me. And let's start with a warm up. So let's think about, today we're thinking about this space of spontaneity and serendipity and bringing that into our meeting. So I want to give you the opportunity to think about what's the last spontaneous thing that you did. And what I'll ask you to do is double click on this, on the mural in this box here and write down what that spontaneous thing was. And if you want to, you can add an image or icon to show what that thing was. So I said I drove 2 hours to get ice cream at my favorite ice cream place for breakfast. It was so worth it. And Trisha, I love that. This really thoughtful impromptu gifts for friends is always really nice.
Yeah.
Any clarifying questions, Linda, Shauna, Lewis?
And Haley, if you have a moment, Andrea would like to join us as well.
Sorry, Linda?
I don't think I have my link, and I'm looking at your screen.
Oh, let me share that again. And I'm going to put it in the Zoom chat, Linda.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm always the person in these backstage that demonstrate the person who's doesn't have it together, so that if anybody doesn't have it together, they'll feel really comfortable.
I really appreciate it.
Exactly.
And Andrea, I also just promoted you to panelist as well, so you'll be able to be on audio and video.
Yay. Great. Did you get in, Linda?
I'm getting in now. Thank you. And I think I'm going to not look at your shared screen.
Yeah, what I recommend for Linda and Lewis and Shauna and Andrea is rather than looking at the Zoom shared screen, look in your web browser where you're going to be using Mural. So that way you just have to focus on one thing at a time. Hey there. All right. So all of our panelists right now are, again, I'll give you maybe another minute or so. I'll just set a timer. And think about the last spontaneous thing that you did. And if you have a picture you want to add, go for it. If you just want to double click and add a sticky note and write down or type what you did, you can do it that way too.
Something yummy has been cooking.
Yeah. And those of you guys who are in the audience, tell us in the chat, what's the last spontaneous thing that you did?
Yeah.
And we can share them out too.
And if you're having any issues, give us a shout as well, and we can kind of try and figure out what's going on. So took kids to downtown Disney for a Disney experience. That sounds like a fun time for the kids.
All right.
Haley,
Yeah.
excuse me. Can I get the link to access as a panelist?
Yes, absolutely. I know you joined us a little bit later,
right,
but I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thanks.
Here we go. And for Shauna, I also shared it with you. And you might have to sign in to be able to access. Andre, did that work? Were you able to sign in and join?
I am just about to enter.
Wonderful. And Shauna, how about you? Were you able to sign in and join us as well?
All right.
Adding some ones from the chat as well.
Thank you. Perfect.
Yum, fresh bread. Somebody got fresh bread. Ooh, some fresh bread. Yum.
All right, so let's share out in our panel a couple of things that show our spontaneity. So Lewis, what was yours? Which one here is yours?
Mine was cook kimchi with my son. It was something we'd always wanted to do for a while. So we went
Ooh,
crazy with at the
so you're
grocery
this
store.
one here. That's awesome. How'd it turn out?
Awesome. Very spicy, and it's getting more spicy as it goes. It's great.
That's great. Andre, how about you? What's the last spontaneous thing that you did?
Well, I fed a stray kitten here in my neighborhood.
Oh, is that okay? This is your kitten right here.
Yeah, that's not exactly the one, but it looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cute.
I suspect you might be adopting a kitten soon.
I have 2 already.
Oh my gosh. Just add to the collection. It's fine.
Yeah.
And Linda, how about you?
I don't know. I felt like rolling out of bed was pretty spontaneous this morning.
Making
Some
a
days it
decision
just
to
feels
get up.
like that. That's
I
the
didn't
show.
even think about it. I just said, it's time to get up. Let's just roll out of bed.
That's awesome. And Shauna, how about you? I know you are you don't have access to audio, but if you want to type in the chat, or even if you want to ask us to follow you, which you can do by hovering over your avatar and then clicking ask to be followed. Or if you want to type it in the chat too, either way.
Somebody brought donuts for their kid's teacher.
Lots of bakers too.
Lots of bakers, yeah.
So I'm glad. And Shauna, if you want to type in the chat, or if you have any questions, feel free to type in the chat too. Both Patricia and I are here to help for sure. In the meantime, I'm gonna have us go over here to our how might we statement. So you're in the mindset of being spontaneous. And remember, we're thinking about, oh, Shauna, that's okay. Welcome. We're thinking about how do we bring these spontaneous moments and moments of serendipity that happen in meetings and in workshops, how do we bring it into a virtual setting? So last time we identified that as a challenge, and we wanted to make some challenge statements that would help us think creatively about potential solutions. So we took some time, Trisha and I, to think through some potential challenge statements that we could use to kind of focus ourselves and solve this challenge. So the idea is whatever challenge statement we solve, you're going to be brainstorming and thinking about ideas for solving the problem. Does that make sense, team? Any questions? No? Okay.
No.
So take a moment, and all of us here, and I'm going to use the timer quite a bit in this session to keep us on track, but take about a minute or so just to read through these 6 challenge statements. And if you have any questions, feel free to just reach out and speak aloud. And if there's one that you feel like you want to add to this too, feel free. I'll put some blank sticky notes down here and we can add.
Perfect.
And if you're new figuring out how do I even add a sticky note, all you need to do is double click onto the mural and that'll create a sticky note for you. And you'll see the typing cursor, like the cursor is blinking there. You can just start typing in your how might we. All right, team, any questions about our how might we statements? And I see a couple of you are making more, which is awesome. I'm glad to. It's created some inspiration.
Lovely.
All right, so take some time, team, read through the ones that have been added here. And what we're going to do, we can't solve all of these, right? So we're going to vote for which one we want to focus on for our brainstorming session. So this is something you should feel really excited about solving it, really passionate about solving this challenge. And we might need to do a couple of rounds to get down to one, but let's select a couple out of these and choose. So Linda, I'll let Linda finish hers. How many votes do you think, Trisha? I always wonder, like, what's the rationale behind, like, how many votes to give? I'm thinking,
three, I think.
That's what exactly I was going to say. 3 is just always like a good number. Let's start with 3. And team, when you're voting, you can use all 3 votes on one if you're really passionate about it, or you can spread your votes out over these sticky notes here. But we're voting on which of these hot pink sticky notes with our challenge statements we want to focus on for the session. So I'm going to make a voting session, start one. And so participants, what you're going to see is a pop-up that says voting session is running. And when you're voting, make sure you only click on the hot pink sticky notes and the hot pink sticky note that you want to cast your vote for. So take a moment, read through, cast your votes. And for those of you who are watching in the audience, as a facilitator, I can create voting sessions and I can see who's voting. So for example, I see that Andrea already voted. He's cast all of his votes. I'm not going to vote, but Jay, if you want to vote, go for it. David, if you want to vote, go for it too. And Andrea has one more. All right. So I'm going to end this voting session. And our winner is how might we bring water cooler and snack break inspirational communications to our remote meetings. Awesome. So this one is our clear winner.
Great.
So before we jump in, team, I also want to ask you, why did you choose this one in particular out of the other ones? Like, what do you feel is important about this one that made you select it?
I feel like there's just something about being co-located that we thought was socially significant, and people and groups I've been part of have been talking about missing the tactile experience of drawing on a whiteboard together, or sharing food, even though you weren't sharing the food, just like being co-eating. And I've been thinking a lot about, since our last session, about what are tools for bringing some of that back. So.
Okay, nice. What else? What about snack breaks? Especially when we're thinking about in-person sessions, to your point, Lewis, what makes them important for a meeting or a workshop?
I think there's something very mammalian about, like, eating together shifts your brain into a different mode for a second, and like signals some kind of a shift from what we were just doing to some other space. And I love to cook. Maybe I'm Italian background. So maybe
You're very foodie oriented.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, me too. Linda, how about you? Yeah, you were going to say something.
Well, I think what I'm noticing in meetings is that because people aren't visiting during the breaks or in the hall as they're leaving a meeting, that sometimes really good work happens there and it comes back into the meeting. And without that, it's like, okay, the meeting's over, and then everybody, the meeting owner, the Zoom producer clicks leave, and all of a sudden, boom, you're gone.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of work and a lot of thinking and processing that is missing. And it's not just good ideas that are left on the table. I think it's unfinished business. I think we don't even know the consequences of that yet. So that's where I'm seeing this. Love your board behind you, Haley.
Thank you, Microsoft Hub.
Linda, I'd like to build on that as well. I mean, I think for me, you know, like I often see, like you're saying, kind of, you know, when there's even if it's a 5-minute break and people are making coffee in the kitchen, you know, there's just more conversations happening, but it's a different brain pace, right? It's not like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we have our best ideas when we're out of the room, you know, when you're just falling asleep, or, you know, you're in the shower, or you've gone for a run or something. It's like a different pace of your brain, right? So because you're not engaged in the meeting with that kind of engagement, your brain's free to think about other things. So when you're in that hallway and you're making coffee or you're having lunch, suddenly you've kind of let go of some of those other things and you've created space for some of those other ideas to emerge. So now that we're not having that kind of interaction, like you say, we don't really know what's being left on the table, right? Because some of those ideas and those inspiration moments just aren't surfacing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the quality of the work, I think, we're being seduced in a way to think that we're being very productive because we've got all these stickies on the board, but there are stickies that are not on the board because they're the stickies that are on the table in the lunchroom. They're the stick, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah. Haley,
Oh,
can I
go
say
ahead,
something?
Andre. Please do.
Yeah, I didn't vote for that. So, but at the
Oh,
same
you
time,
didn't? Okay.
I'm really getting passionate, and then my colleagues are really inspiring me. You know, I feel like those moments are the what if moments. When you kind of bilaterally talk about, you make a comment about what your colleague said, and then you build on it. You say, what if you know we bring this into the conversation? That kind of a spontaneity and also you know, outside a rigid structure, it really leverages creativity and divergent thinking. So I think those moments are critical in every meeting.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it sounds like I'm like reading what Shauna's typing into her sticky notes, and I want to make sure I advocate. And it sounds like she's kind of feeling the same way, where you need those moments to talk to people and say, like, okay, how are you, and check in with other people who you're working with. And when you're working in a Zoom environment or this video conference environment, it's hard to understand and like pick up on those social cues.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely is. So, so team, I think we have some good thoughts and inspiration around kind of like, why are these moments so important? And of course, thinking about maybe an example of when you've had, well, I guess I want to ask one more thing is, do you have an example of a time when a casual, like a serendipitous moment or a spontaneous moment brought something new and inspiring to your work? Do you have a story to share?
I hear
Yeah,
people
Louis?
talking about somebody's kid coming into the room and really doing an interruption can either be a nothing event because people are so used to, or it can be a moment of delight or a pause in the meeting that then brings a new kind of thinking, or it can be like, oh, how uncomfortable, cringy. Like I've heard all three of them.
Yeah. And as a facilitator, right, you have to kind of like how you react to that moment, I think helps make people feel like that's a welcome thing and that it actually is a positive, or it is kind of uncomfortable. And I see Jenny and Kimberly are talking about too, like some of these water cooler moments are also kind of important because people aren't comfortable necessarily being in these big groups, and they need that one-on-one time or that time to kind of step back from the situation and analyze.
Yeah.
So let's transition over into some brainstorming. I think we have some really good examples and moments where we think about these snack breaks in the water cooler are important to our sessions. So I'm gonna once again have you guys follow me over to our reverse brainstorm. So Trisha, tell us a little bit about what are we going to do here? What is a reverse brainstorm, first of all?
So in the reverse brainstorm, we're not thinking of sort of all of the answers that would create this type of environment. So how might we bring that? We're thinking of all of the things that we would do to not create that environment. So sometimes it's kind of easier to think about how would I avoid doing this? So if you wanted to avoid, having any of that spontaneous water cooler snack break connections, and communications, what were the things that you would do? So for example, you might have an agenda that was so tight that, you wouldn't create any space for, kind of outside conversations outside of the agenda topics to happen, for example, So how would you avoid doing it? What were all the things that you would do to sort of stop doing that as a kind of, that's the reverse brainstorm sort of context.
Okay. So what can you absolutely do to stop that from happening?
Yeah.
And what we're going to ask you guys to do is in these, I see you guys have done an awesome job already, adding your names to what I call them kind of placemats or like your individual working space. And you're going to use that space to generate some ideas on sticky notes. So use your sticky notes, double click to add some. And Shauna's already off to the races, Linda's already off to the races, and use that to think about what are some ways that you can stop spontaneous moments.
Yep. And again, if the audience wants to add as well, I'll definitely populate in the audience space. So
Yay.
Feel free to kind of pop things in the chat as well. How long do we have, Haley?
Let's give 2 minutes. And
Okay.
in that 2 minutes, I'll play some music for you guys and get some creative juices flowing.
Nice. I see a couple coming through the chat. Feel free to pop them in the Zoom chat and I will pick them up in here as well.
Oh, there we go. There's the music. Thanks, Gabe. All right. So you've had some opportunities to think about ways to shut down contribution or spontaneous moments. Maybe we can do a quick highlight from each of you. So if we can pick out maybe 2 from each of you and share which ones are your favorites in a way. So from the audience, let's see. An example of a reverse brainstorm idea is one-person presentations, schedule back-to-back meetings with no space in between.
Yeah, another one was sort of total surveillance.
Interesting. What does that mean? David, you'll have to answer that one for us.
Yeah.
Linda, what were a couple that stick out for you? What were your top two?
The one that just occurred to me, some of them I have, other people have as well, but is always assigning participants to breakouts.
Oh, yeah.
Not, I'm trying to avoid saying don't do this and don't do that. So instead of don't let participants turn their mics on and off, I said keep control of access.
Mm-hmm.
Assigning participants to breakouts is a good one in that same way, because I was in a meeting yesterday where I was assigned into a group where I didn't feel comfortable talking in that particular group. And had I been in a different group, I think I could have made a lot better contributions. And it never occurred to me how to use open space. Or I facilitated a meeting last week where my client put people into pre-assigned groups. And I was really curious to know what's driving that. And if I was a member of that group, I would wonder the same thing. So sorry, that was a little bit long, but that's sort of my MO, sorry.
No, good point, good explanation. All right, Lewis, what are a few that come to mind for you, ways to shut down or prevent spontaneity?
I think more like over gripping my agenda, and so like not deviating when it just feels right, and or avoiding silence when I'm not sure what to do, and it's just okay not to know what to do. I really been recently loving this liberating structures, or I don't know if it's liberating structures thing, but it's the idea of whispering out loud if I have a co-facilitator, rather than kind of doing my normal back channel communication to them. I'll just say, hey, Joe, right now in the meeting, I'm feeling this and I'm seeing this. What do you think about doing that? And it's just like, oh, people are like, oh, okay, that's a different. So.
I love that, because it's true. Like the one with Trisha, I was like, how many votes should we do? Because it's like you're giving people the chance to feel. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, and you're giving permission in a lot of ways. I like that, whispering out loud. It's really cool. Thank you. Shauna, I know your mic is not on, so I hope you don't mind. I will pick out, unless you want to, Shauna, maybe I'll come back to you and save the best for last, since you're off mic, but change the color of the ones that you want us to highlight. So maybe make them, for example, click on it, and then you'll find the way to change the color is like this color palette, and make it dark or light or pink or purple or whatever you want to make it. So not allowing awkward silences, that sometimes encourages people to contribute. Nice. And I'll come back for your last one. And Andrea, what is your, oh, you highlighted yours. So tell me, explain this one, run the whole session in plenary without breakout room work.
Right. I felt a bit uninspired, and the pre-standard sort of suggestions, but for me, there's no equivalent. Like the breakout rooms is where the magic happens, and they can be somehow the replacement of the coffee break. It's where you can unleash creativity. It's where the shy people talk. Is where the non-native speakers of English, like myself, feel more comfortable in talking. So we can leverage them strategically to really mirror and make up for the loss of the water cooler or the coffee station. As in Italia, I would call it the coffee station. Over
delicious espresso.
Yes, indeed.
Nice. Thank you. And then Shauna's other one was leave the meeting during breakout sessions. Oh.
Yeah. Someone in the chat had that as well. So we could hang up during breakouts, during breaks as well, right? Or so that there's kind of no conversation during breaks, kind of end the meeting during breaks is another one.
So when you're saying leave the meeting during breakouts, does that mean that when a breakout happens, the fact that somebody leaves during that time is what hurts spontaneity? I want to make sure I understand that. I know Shauna can't speak out loud, but okay, she said yes, it's awkward. And I wonder why do people leave during breakout sessions? Like what would prompt that to happen? If it's happened to you guys before.
maybe they're uncomfortable being in that group.
Yeah.
Or maybe they need a break and they didn't want to miss the quote unquote important stuff in the plenary. And so they, they needed to refresh their coffee.
Yeah. Or go to the bathroom, like
Yeah.
God forbid.
If I may, sometimes the assignment is unclear and they feel a lot of pressure and they may, find an excuse to leave the group work. So clear instructions, clear deliverables, and maybe, empowering the group to find some common rules as soon as they break into group works, to find a scribe, to find a facilitator, to find who reports back. That will give a little bit of structure and less intimidating sort of tasks.
So to reflect back, Andrea, it's that you in terms of breakouts assign roles for people so they don't feel so they
It
feel like they have
depends.
some value to add to
Right.
it.
Especially at the very beginning of a meeting or a workshop, I tend to be overly prescriptive and over communicating, which may sound silly, but it kind of sets the tones. And then as I move along, I leave, I give away some responsibility to the teams to find out their own rules. But yeah, that's what I do when I have new teams, new groups.
Interesting. Okay. So these are all examples, as you guys have generated, examples of ways to stop spontaneity from happening, or to prevent moments of serendipity from occurring in online meetings. So it sounds like kind of some key themes are in a way, too much structure, but then it's finding that right balance with giving people some direction and guidance. So I think it's kind of like you come in with facilitation, a lot of it is you come in with a plan, but it's being ready to pivot and create opportunities for pivots with the group, which is a challenging thing to do, right? So with this in mind, how do you guys feel about generating some ideas? And I imagine it sounds like some of you guys have facilitated your own sessions as well. And it'd be awesome to hear some advice or some ideas around how to create those spontaneous moments in meetings based on what you've added here. Sound good? Any questions about, like, we're going to do brainstorming. We'll explain it in a moment, but is everyone okay going into a brainstorm, or do you need some more clarity? Which is okay if you do. Ready to roll? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how we're going to do our brainstorm. It's going to be solution sketching. So Trisha, tell us about what is solution sketching and how do we do it?
So hopefully now that we have an idea of all these things that we want to avoid, we have sort of lots of ideas of maybe, things that we could create. So you've got here sort of moving across in a horizontal way, you have sort of 4 sort of sketch pads that have been laid out for you. And we're going to sketch 4 different solutions for how we could, kind of create those water cooler and snack break inspirational moments in this remote environment that we're in. So we're going to think about 4 different ideas. And Haley, you're going to show us how we can do sketching, because there are a couple of different ways that we can do sketching. So Haley's going to role model that. And then once you finish role modeling that, we will do 4, and we're going to give a minute to sketch each idea. So we're going to do 1 minute in column 1, and then we'll go on to 1 more minute for column 2, column 3, column 4. So we'll sketch 4 different ideas in each of the 4 columns. And you're going across in Europe. So go for it, Haley. You can role models to do that.
So let's say the first idea is I'm going to add a group stretching time into my meeting. So 5 minutes for the team to stretch either in the middle or at the start of the session. So rather than just typing in, group stretch, I want to show what that might look like. So I have a couple options. I can use the icon library. So click this star icon here and look up stretch and add a bunch of icons here. I can use the image library, which is this little picture icon. And I can search any image. So if I wanted to say stretching group, here we go. I can add an image. And so that's my first idea. Now, my second idea, Trisha, what's an idea for creating a water cooler moment?
Varying, let's say, kind of letting people choose breakout rooms, so giving them some flexibility. So let's say we want to have different topics and people can move around between breakout rooms. So we could sketch something which is like, 2 or 3 rooms and people being able to kind of move around as they choose.
Okay.
Nice.
So we do have a sketching tool as well. If you're not on a touchscreen device, you can also just use this little pencil icon at the bottom corner and start drawing too. But you can sketch some concepts as well. So feel free to use your own creative liberties to make something awesome here that conveys your idea. And as Trisha mentioned, it's going to be fairly fast. It's going to be 1 minute per sketch pad. Any clarifying questions? All right. And for our audience, if you have ideas, put them into the chat. Trisha and I will do our best to add them in. Probably won't be able to draw them all, but at least getting some ideas will be great. And for our participants, I will start a timer. Make sure that you are over your first placemat area. So you're in column number 1 next to your name.
Perfect.
Everyone there? All right. Questions? Okay, I'm taking that as a no. And I'll start your first minute. Go. And if anyone has questions about using Mural as well, feel free to ask those. So for example, can you use an iPad with a pen to sketch? You can, yes. So it basically be the same thing where I have a pen and if I'm on a touchscreen device, I can use it to sketch.
And any ideas from the audience, you guys can pop them into the chat and we'll bring them into the mural as well.
Yeah. So for example, organize a pet show.
Nice.
Show people their favorite pick and it can be voted. Ah, that's a good idea. All right, Maureen is giving me an idea for our next round. I'm going to use the incognito or the privacy mode for you guys to sketch your ideas. So now, team, time to shift over to the right to column or placemat number 2. Everyone head over there and I'll start the timer. Everyone over there. Linda, are you over? Everyone's over?
No,
I see you.
to decide what I'm going to do. I'm kind of feeling the pressure of what am I going to do? How quickly can I work? So I feel like a laggard here.
That's okay. And I understand it's pretty quick. So why don't I give everybody like 2 minutes and that'll give us hopefully some time to think and sketch.
I'm trying to be spontaneous, but it's not working.
It's hard. It's challenging. You're trying with a tool and the technology. So let's say 2 minutes and for each section. So I want to give you guys 1 more minute to finish up your first drawing. And actually what I'm going to do is start private mode. So I won't actually be able to see what you guys are adding and contributing, and you won't be able to see what anyone else is contributing until it's done. And private mode is really great, especially if you're working in a session, and a lot of times groupthink is a big challenge. If you see what someone else is writing in a mural or on sticky notes, you might be influenced by their concepts and ideas. So private mode is a really good way to reduce that risk. And Samantha, the privacy and timer are part of your free trial as well. So you don't have to worry about like a limited access to certain features. And I'll end private mode just so you can see what people have added so far. All right, team, let's move over to number 2. So now we're in column number 2. So your second idea, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to brainstorm and visualize your concept. So everyone over on your second, moving over to the right. And private mode, by the way, for those of you who are watching, it's over next to the timer. It's between the timer and the voting mechanisms up here. And as a facilitator, so this is a facilitation superpower. So if you have a star, you're a facilitator in a mural, which means that you can use the voting tool and the timer and private mode. So I'm going to start private mode right here. All right. And Samantha, by the way, the reason, you can't see private mode is because you have to be a facilitator. So I know, how do you become a facilitator? You have to be the owner of the mural, or you have to be promoted to a facilitator. So if I promoted someone like Linda to be a facilitator, now she has a star next to her avatar, and now she has facilitation superpowers too. And you can see, here's the private mode example. So I can see that people are adding content, but I can't actually see the content itself.
But we can see one another's.
You can?
No, I can't. That's exactly right. I can, no, never mind. I can see people running around the mural.
Ah.
Exactly what you just said. I see the block. I've never used this feature, so this is a good intro.
Here you go. Welcome. It's fairly new to Mural too. It's fun to try it out. I haven't used it that much yet, and I'm enjoying it so far. All right, team. So our 2 minutes is up. Now on to idea number 3. So shift over to the right, that next pink box, and you'll get 2 minutes again to generate your ideas. Sketch, draw, add images. I know it feels fast. In a way, brainstorming is meant to feel like a little bit crazy and hectic, but we'll take a deep breath afterwards. And I'm looking, Trisha, at some of the ideas that what were some of the ideas that you drew?
Oh no, I'm taking from the audience and I'm adding in here. So I will kind of go through those when we're recapping. I was just making sure that we brought those in as well.
Sweet. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
And thanks, Kimberly. I appreciate it. Kimberly's giving us some love for facilitation. It always helps to have an awesome co-facilitator, honestly. Like working side by side has been great.
For sure. I find in this kind of space, you definitely it's really helpful to have more than one person in that. There's so much more to do, right? You're looking at chats and looking at those things, as well as thinking about the process, as well as kind of looking at video and reading cues and all sorts of stuff. So feels like there's more to do.
Yes.
looks like we have lots of things coming out of here. So interested to see what they all are, all these great ideas, because this is definitely a big challenge.
Yeah. All right, last one. So let's head on over to our last pink box here, number 4. And this one I'm going to give you 1 minute, see where we are. Just be mindful of time and everything, but take 1 minute, create an awesome visual for your last idea. And when I say awesome, I mean, it doesn't have to be artistically awesome. This is not an art class, don't worry. It just has to convey the idea. And I'll put the music on to bring us home for our last ideation session. All right, team. So what I'm going to do is end private mode, and it's going to reveal these awesome ideas. Here we go. Ooh, awesome. That's so cool to see everyone's come up. Okay, so I want to give each of you the opportunity to highlight some of your ideas, because this is also about sharing with one another. What are some ways that we can bring spontaneity and serendipity into an online space? So does somebody have one that they'd like to share and they're super excited about? And what I'll do is give you 2 minutes to share while you're doing that. Take a look through. Everyone's going to have an opportunity to share, so it's just who's ready first.
If you need somebody, I'll jump up to.
Sure, Linda, if you can ask us, so what I'm going to ask you to do is, I want you to ask us to follow you. So do you know how to do that? I feel like you do. Okay. All right, so everyone, if we can follow Linda, she's going to explain what her concept is.
Do you want me to just do one?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just pick my last one because I finally got the hang of being spontaneous and creating. I think that offering lots of variety of things to do in a meeting helps keep people stimulated. And if you keep doing you have various types of ways of engaging and various types of activities, that you're likely to hit on some way for someone to feel comfortable and be spontaneous. And I'm complete.
Nice. Awesome. All right, who's next? Oh, and actually, before I jump to someone who's next, Linda, do you have an example of one, like of something that you've done in Mural or like in an online meeting that helps bring variety?
Hey, thanks a lot for putting me back on the spot. I think that what I try to do is I try to have voting for some things to setting priorities. I try to have breakouts. I try to make sure that I'm not having people I'm trying to create breaks after just 50 minutes. So just trying to keep things moving in an environment that's very static.
Nice. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your wisdom. The only reason I call you out is because I know that you have some great suggestions.
Thanks. I think it's good to know that I'm courageous enough to get out there and not necessarily look really smart in it.
And I appreciate it. You're awesome, honestly.
Thank
All
you.
right. Who would like to go next?
I can go.
All right. Can you ask us? There you go. Thank you.
Sure. I guess, I can take a sort of snapshot of the four suggestions. That there is a common theme, which is probably spelled out in the third icon, the one I'm showing now. This is a virtual empathy walk. So for me, it's very important to create meaningful opportunities for small group talk, as low as a one-on-one pair group thinking. I think there is a lot that can happen there. And again, to unleash the creativity and also to promote a smaller environment where people feel more free to express and diverge and create.
Awesome. I love that. How would you do it in Mural? Like if you're thinking about like a virtual setting, are there certain like features
Well,
or methods you
yes.
would use?
For instance, what I do is that I, as a facilitator, I make sure that there is a virtual parking lot available. And then on, let's say, the following meeting on the following day, if it is a workshop, I invite participants to go back to the parking lot and pick one theme to be then discussed in a group, in a small talk with the another colleague. So, I use Mural indirectly by sort of collecting the ideas, and then the conversation doesn't have to be necessarily with Mural. It can be a very open conversation.
Nice, really nice. Thank you.
So Haley, I mean, to use Mural, you could bring in like a picture of somewhere that you would actually physically to go for walks, and then you could have a conversation around that picture in the Mural, if you were in small groups. And you could even use Google Maps in a way, like, if you were in small breakout rooms with someone, you could use Google Maps and you could actually take a walk with someone about somewhere where you would go. And, if you're in different places, and use that to kind of get into a conversation that's kind of outside in a kind of way. You can kind of take a stroll in a Google Map and see what that generates.
That's super fun. All right, thank you. That's a really great one too. Yeah, the people in the audience are like, that's awesome. All right, Lewis, bring us home. And what's something that you would recommend or you've tried?
I'm gonna follow on that same comment, which is I have this concept of a lunch counter, and like when thinking about conferences I go to, sometimes we all just go somewhere for lunch, and I'm in front of another person, and someone's behind me. So for 5 minutes, I'm with 3 people. We are getting lunch. The end. That's the totality of the commitment, and that's a conversation. And I was just like, how could I bring that in? And I was thinking, maybe it's some relatively short sessions that people are just, I guess, auto mixed into breakouts with their own space on Mural, but maybe I haven't thought about it. But I was just thinking, okay, everyone knows why they're here. There's an informal way in and out. So
yeah, and making space for that opportunity to say like, I'm booking a time, but it's like literally just like, if you want to join and hang out with people, this is here for you, and it's kind of unstructured. That's really neat. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining. First of all, I love throwing confetti to celebrate an awesome session with you guys. And before we leave today, I just want to go around and check in with everybody to give us a word for how you're feeling leaving this session as you're checking out. So for example, I'm Haley. I feel blissful, and I'm checking out.
Hey, I'm Trisha, and I feel inspired, and I'm checking out.
I'm Linda, and I'm running late to another meeting.
Bye, Linda.
I'm glad I was here. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Lewis, how about you?
I'm Lewis, and I'm feeling inspired. Thanks.
Andrea?
And I'm Andrea, and I feel energized and inspired. Thank you so much.
Love it. And we have Shauna. She's excited and motivated and checking out too. Well, wonderful, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you here next week, same time, same place, new topic.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks
Enjoy
a
your
lot.
weekend.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.